Welcome to Financial First Aid. This is Sandra McAdams, and I am a director of the Alpharetta Operations for IBM Southeast Employees Federal Credit Union. Many circumstances in life can derail even the best money management plan. If you have found yourself in a situation where you cannot keep up with your bills, you'll need to take an inventory of your resources and prioritize your financial obligations. With limited funds available, it may not be possible to pay all of your bills in full every month. But by prioritizing your expenses and taking a proactive approach to your finances, you may be able to minimize the consequences until you get back on your feet. The first thing that you want to do is to take action. Construct a budget. Look at your income versus your expenses. Prioritize your bills. Look at which ones need to be paid first. Formulate a strategy for communicating with your creditors. Understand the options available for dealing with your financial obligations. And do this quickly, as time is of the essence. As tempting as it may be, do not ignore bills and past due notices. If you do not contact your creditors about your financial difficulties and you do not make scheduled payments, several things can happen. So let's talk about some consequences of inaction. Late charges, over-limit fees, and interest can continue to increase your debt. Your account may become delinquent and affect your credit report. Utilities such as gas, electricity, water, and even telephone services may be shut off. Your account may be turned over to a collection agency. Once the account is referred to collection, the original creditor loses almost all control over what would be an acceptable payment plan. Any good relationship from personal contact with the original creditor is lost. Collection agencies are usually more aggressive and less willing to compromise. That's why they're hired. In addition, they frequently bring lawsuits to collect debts, and it can even jeopardize your future employment. You could experience a repossession, be evicted from your home, or even be foreclosed on. By not taking action, you really lose other options that you may have already had. Take inventory of income and resources. Record all sources of income, including realistic expectations of income that you will be receiving soon. Do this on a worksheet. Include the source of the income, the gross income, as well as the net income. Sources that you conclude are the income from your job, your significant other's job, a part-time job that either of you may have, rental or room and board that you receive, commissions or bonuses, tax refunds, investment income, government benefits, even unemployment insurance, child support or alimony, or support that you receive from family or friends, and also include any other income source that you may have. If you live near a college or other type of adult school and you have a spare room, you could rent it out on a month-to-month basis. Some schools even have housing coordinators who handle the arrangements. You could have a garage sale. Do you have older children or an unemployed spouse or significant other that can find work? If you're getting a tax refund each year, consider increasing the number of exemptions you're claiming on your W-4 form at work. This will give you more take-home pay. You will want to make sure to consult with a tax advisor to make sure this will not result in an end-of-year tax debt. Make sure you apply for all benefits you may be eligible for, such as unemployment insurance, AFDC, or Social Security. And you can also look at liquidating your assets. When looking at liquidating assets, in certain situations, tapping into an IRA or a 401k or even a life insurance policy may make sense. The penalties for early withdrawal from a retirement account may be reasonable when compared with the possibility of losing your home through foreclosure. The important thing is that you do not make these decisions lightly. You want to weigh the benefits and the consequences. Be sure to speak to professionals who can help you look objectively at your options. Early withdrawal from a retirement plan could result in hefty penalties and taxes, in some cases eating up to 50% of the balance. Borrowing from your life insurance policy may be an option, but remember that any portion that is not repaid is money that is not going to the beneficiary. Some 401k plans allow participants to borrow up to a certain percentage of the account balance. Borrowing from your plan may help you avoid penalties and tax consequences, but some companies have a policy that if you're terminated while you have an outstanding 401k loan, the balance is due in full. Make sure to speak to your benefits specialist to learn about your company's plan. You may also have a loss of any future appreciation that plan may receive while you have an outstanding loan. The next step is to review your expenses. Which ones are necessary? which ones can be reduced, postponed, substituted, or even foregone. How can you temporarily eliminate some cost? And you want to track your spending. There's two types of expenses. You have essential expenses and discretionary expenses. Create a worksheet to see how much you're spending and where you can make some adjustments. Even basic living expenses can be reduced. You could try conserving energy to reduce the utility bills, or you could spend less on gasoline by carpooling. Also, while savings would normally be considered essential, in an emergency situation where you are trying to keep your head above water, savings goals may have to be put on hold temporarily. You also have discretionary expenses. During this period, there will most likely be some necessary sacrifices to make, especially in regard to non-essential expenses. More than ever, you'll need to pare down your discretionary spending. Look at your budget critically to find places where you can make cuts. Now let's create a worksheet. On this worksheet, you want to list your essential expenses on one side and your discretionary expenses on the other. Make sure to include the current payment and the proposed payment for both of those categories. Examples of essential expenses are rent or mortgage, any second mortgage, homeowners association dues, property taxes, homeowners insurance or renters insurance, your utilities like gas, electric, water, sewage, and garbage, telephone, home maintenance, your groceries, household items, health insurance, prescriptions and doctor's visits, car payments, gasoline, maintenance and repairs, auto insurance, auto registration or ad valorem taxes, tolls, parking, or mass transit, daycare and babysitting, alimony or child support, tuition or any type of lessons, student loans, taxes, life insurance, and union dues. Some examples of discretionary expenses are internet access, movies and video rentals, cable and satellite, dining out, sports and hobbies and clubs, gym, storage fees, vacations and travel, books, music, DVDs, clothing purchases, dry cleaning, beauty and barber shops, pool and hot tub services, gardening, alarm monitoring, gifts and gift cards, cell phones and pagers, banking fees, postage, cigarettes and alcohol, pet care, and religious and charity contributions. You want to look at ways to cut your expenses. You can reduce grocery expenses by participating in SHARE, a worldwide food and volunteer service network. You may reach them toll-free at 1-888-SHARE-SAVE. That's 1-888-742-7372. Another way to cut expenses is packing your own lunch for school or work. Give up or limit eating out. Talk with your minister about temporarily eliminating your tithing contribution until your financial situation improves. Maybe you could do some volunteer work instead. Substitute expensive leisure activities with less costly or free alternatives. Exercise for free. Walk, run, bike, or check out exercise videos from the library. Cancel your cellular phone. Is there a friend available who's able to provide low-cost daycare? Or maybe you could form a daycare pool with other parents. Cut long-distance phone bills and drop extra phone services like call forwarding and caller ID. Are there club memberships, newspaper or magazine subscriptions, or cable services you could cancel or suspend? Instead of making dinner dates, make coffee dates. And don't use your ATM card at machines that charge a fee. If you need cash, do a point-of-sale purchase and use your 4-digit PIN to get cash back at no charge. Next, take an inventory of your debt. List all of your debts. Listening to our suggestions for dealing with different types of debt will help you prioritize your bills and develop a plan for working with your creditors. Create a worksheet. It's an inventory of your debt. List your creditor's name and the balance, along with your payment. Make sure to include any past due child support or spousal support, back taxes, any secured loans or student loans or unsecured debt that you may have. Finally, create a financial summary. Using the totals from the charts that you've created, create one more chart that lists the results of your total income, subtracting out your monthly essential expenses, subtract out your monthly discretionary expenses, subtract out your total monthly debt. This will give you a monthly income surplus or shortfall. The results, whether positive or negative, will approximately reflect the status of your monthly financial outlook. Next, we want to prioritize your bills. Not all of your debts impact your family equally. Those that enable you to maintain the health and well-being of yourself as well as your family are the most important. For example, you need to pay your utility bill before your department store bill. Keep in mind that laws regarding foreclosure, tenant rights, secured debt, and other consumer finance issues may vary by state. Let's talk about housing payments, specifically delinquent mortgage. Maintaining your housing payment should be your first priority. Mortgage delinquency can result in foreclosure if you do not take immediate steps to remedy the situation. Think carefully about whether you want to stay in your home. If not, you may choose to sell, offer a deed in lieu of foreclosure, or conduct a short sale with the permission of the lender. There's an important information that you should have before you decide how to handle your delinquent mortgage. Balance offers counseling and publishes early delinquency intervention, saving your home from foreclosure. You may reach them by calling 1-888-456-2227 and request a free copy. If you want to keep your house and you've already missed mortgage payments, or you think you might in the near future, you do have some options. If you are current on your loan and you have some equity in your property, consider refinancing. If not, a forbearance or other payment arrangement might be in order. If your situation is temporary, contact the lender. Request an arrangement in writing, providing documentation of your situation and your prognosis. It may be possible to send reduced payments for a specific period of time, with an arrangement to make them up later. Be sure to make it clear that your problems are due to circumstances beyond your control. Never promise to make payments that you cannot afford, as a lender can revoke an arrangement if you break it. Bankruptcy may also be a way to protect your home if you are delinquent, but you should certainly seek legal advice before filing bankruptcy. By staying in contact with your lender, documenting your situation, and following through on agreements, you can probably avoid foreclosure. The longer you wait, however, the more difficult it becomes. Typically, after 2 to 3 missed payments, the lender files a notice of default, and a copy is mailed to you. After that time, you usually only have 3 to 4 months before a trustee sale of your home takes place, and you have to vacate the premises. The closer you get to that date, the more challenging and expensive it becomes to remedy the situation. If you're delinquent on your rent, be sure to speak with or write your landlord. If you have funds available, try to make arrangements to pay. The landlord may accept partial payments for 1 or 2 months. Be sure to give a concrete plan and prognosis. Also, if you have a private landlord as opposed to a building management firm, you may be able to do some maintenance work in place or in part of your rental cost. If you cannot reach an agreement, you must either leave the premises or the landlord will proceed with eviction. You will receive a 3-day notice to pay back rent or vacate the premises. If you do not leave, the landlord will get an unlawful detainer or summons from the court. Filing a legal response at the county courthouse will require your landlord to set a court date to evict you and perhaps buy you some time to make additional arrangements. Now on to car payments. Missed car payments can quickly result in serious consequences. If you are delinquent on your car payment or you think you might become delinquent, contact the lender right away. Sometimes it is possible to modify your loan to cover the missed payment, or you may be able to trade down or refinance your car. If your car is repossessed, it will be sold at auction. The difference between what you owe plus repossession and storage cost and what they sell it for will become an unsecured debt for which you will be responsible. As a last resort, some people just give the car back to the lender. This is considered a voluntary repossession. The credit implications are not as severe, and there are no repossession costs added to the balance you may owe after the car is auctioned. For insurance, if you can't make your insurance payments, call your agent. Explain your circumstances, offer up documentation, and ask them about the length of your grace period. If you allow your insurance to lapse, you may have difficulty getting new coverage, or you may have to pay a large amount when reinstating the policy. For your auto insurance, see if your insurer will agree to increase the deductible on your collision and comprehensive coverage. And if you're making large annual payments, ask to switch to a monthly or quarterly payment. If your car is not new, you may only want liability coverage in order to decrease your premiums. For life insurance, missing payments on term life insurance can cause you to lose your policy. If you're making payments into cash value policies, speak to your agent about suspending or reducing them temporarily. While you may be able to borrow money from a cash value policy, weigh this decision carefully, as there may be penalties and lost potential capital appreciation. For your health insurance, if you're no longer employed, check to see if the health insurance from your former employer is continued and for how long. Compare this to the cost of adding yourself to a family member's insurance policy if possible. If coverage is not available, or if you can't afford the premium, see if you qualify for public medical assistance insurance, or look into catastrophic insurance that would pay for major hospitalization only. With high deductibles, these policies can be relatively inexpensive. There are low-cost medical services in most communities for basic health needs. The handling of secured debt other than your home and primary vehicle is a matter of personal priority. If the item is repossessed, it will be sold. If the sale price does not cover the balance of the debt plus repossession and storage cost, you will owe the difference as an unsecured debt called a deficiency balance. Given the property back may result in a deficiency balance, but you will save on repossession cost. If you can sell the property for enough to cover the balance on the debt on what you owe, this may be a good option. If you are already delinquent on a secured debt, or you think that you might be soon, and if you want to keep the item, contact the creditor to make some sort of hardship arrangement. For student loans, deferments are available for people in hardship situations for up to 2 years on many loans if you meet the lender's criteria. Forbearance is similar to deferment, but often more easily granted. Again, it may be possible to lower or suspend principal payments for up to 2 years, but you must either pay the interest or allow it to accrue. You must be fairly current to qualify for these programs. If you are delinquent, consolidation may be the answer. Consolidating student loans not only brings them current, improving your credit score and possibly qualifying you for deferment, but it also offers several payment options. One option is an income-based arrangement in which your payments vary annually according to your income. Allowing your loans to go into default and not doing anything to cure it will not only result in credit damage, but serious collection tactics, which include wage garnishment and interception of tax returns. Also, student loans are difficult to discharge in bankruptcy. The Department of Education, you can contact them at 1-800-621-3115, can help you locate your loan if you are unsure of who is servicing it. Sally Mae, and you can contact them at 1-800-524-9100, and Southwest Student Services Corporation, you can reach them at 1-800-367-2369, are organizations that consolidate loans. The Ford Federal Direct Loan Program, you can reach them at 1-800-848-0979, is a consolidation program in which you may be able to arrange an income-based repayment plan. Let's discuss taxes. Contrary to what you may believe, the IRS is willing to negotiate a tax repayment plan with taxpayers who want to get back on track. If you haven't filed, you need to do so right away. Request forms from your local IRS office or by calling 1-800-TAX-FORM. Failure to file penalties can be far greater than failure to pay penalties. If you owe federal taxes, the IRS begins their collection process by sending out a series of letters. The last is a notice of intent to levy. After that is received, the IRS may take such action as garnishment, tax liens, or levying, seizing, your property. Both before and during the process, you have some options as far as repayment is concerned. If you owe less than $10,000, you can set up a 36-month repayment plan. If you have some funds available, you may be able to set up an offer in compromise, which is a settlement of your debt for less than what is owed. In cases of extreme hardship, the IRS may be willing to code your account as being uncollectible for a year. To make any of these arrangements, call the IRS at 1-800-TAX-1040. State tax boards may be a bit more difficult to work with, but contacting them is in your best interest. Let's talk about child and spousal support. It's not an expense that can be easily reduced. You must go to court to have your amount reduced or modified. It is likely that you will need the assistance of a lawyer, at least a legal typing service. Even if your ex-spouse or child's other parent agrees to the reduction, it must be handled through the court. Remember, the modification is not retroactive. You are responsible for the full amount in any past due payments until the court agrees to the reduction. Also, you cannot discharge past due support in bankruptcy. Neglecting this obligation can result in very aggressive collection action, including garnishment and criminal prosecution. With unsecured debt such as credit cards and personal loans, there may be some flexibility in arranging a payment plan. Many creditors offer hardship programs, which are short-term arrangements that allow you to make very small payments at a reduced interest rate. When requesting these kinds of arrangements, be sure to speak to a manager or a supervisor and stress that your situation is due to circumstances beyond your control. Also, offer a timeline and your plan for improving the situation. Remember, never promise to make payments that you cannot afford. Generally, if you miss payments during your hardship program, the creditor will revoke the arrangements. Make your offer only after developing a realistic budget. Follow up with a letter just to confirm your arrangement. Neglecting your debt can result in phone calls and credit damage, and creditors possibly taking legal action. Legal action can result in a judgment enabling the creditor to garnish your wages, place liens on your property, or seize your belongings. So let's recap. On prioritizing your expenses, determine what's most important. Look at housing, transportation, insurance, utilities, secured debt, unsecured debt, and any miscellaneous debt that you may have. Next, you want to communicate with your creditors. You may call first, however, make sure to follow up in writing, explaining your situation and defining your repayment plan. Also, keep copies of all letters. It is best to contact your creditors in writing, keeping copies of all correspondence for your records. A letter is better than a telephone call because you're able to explain your circumstances and your plan for repaying your bills without being interrupted or redirected by the creditor. You won't get upset or confused if the creditor intimidates you. You both have a copy of the record of your proposal. Before you write your letters, you will need to clarify the following facts. How did you come to be in financial difficulty? Creditors like to know what specific hardship caused you to miss payments, whether the hardship was beyond your control, and whether the situation is likely to happen again. What steps can you realistically take to remedy the situation right now? The worksheets that we've talked about will help you determine your current income and your essential expenses. It is important that you understand how much, if any, money you can offer to your creditors. It's better to be honest and tell the creditor you are temporarily unable to make any payment than to promise to send money that you do not have. What are your plans for future income? Creditors want to know exactly how you're going to resolve the situation and when. Be realistic when you speak to creditors, but don't specifically identify your current or potential employer. You do not want creditors calling you at work. After you have written your letters, mail a letter to each creditor and keep a copy for yourself. Write up a small list of your spending plan and your repayment plan and keep it by the telephone. Creditors may call with additional questions. If they do, refer to your plan and do not promise payments that you cannot make. Be honest and courteous. A sample letter to a creditor would sound something like this. Dear creditor, due to a layoff, I am temporarily unemployed and as a result am experiencing financial difficulties. I have analyzed my current situation and with the help of balance, only if that is applicable, I have developed a repayment plan. After making a strict budget for my expenses, I find it necessary that I ask each creditor to accept a reduced payment for the next 3 months. By then, I expect to be back at work full-time. I would appreciate your cooperation in making this payment plan work. In place of the regular payment of $80, I request that you accept payments of $30 per month during this emergency. I will pay before the 30th of the month. You can be sure that I will resume normal payments as soon as possible. Thank you for your consideration. If there are any changes in my situation, I will notify you of them as soon as possible. Make sure to sign it and put your name, address, and your account number on the letter. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, acronymed as FDCPA, regulates collection agencies' conduct toward the consumer. It is important to note that in some states this does not apply to the original creditors or their internal collections department, but only to outside collection agencies or lawyers performing collection functions. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, wrote the FDCPA and also enforces the rules. The FDCPA specifically prohibits many activities. Here are some of the most common. A bill collector cannot call you before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. However, it is legal to call you at work. If you inform the collector in writing that the calls are jeopardizing your job, then the calls must cease. You can also write a letter to the collection agency asking that no calls be made regarding the debt. Subsequent calls are then illegal. Always send your letter by certified mail with return receipt requested so that the agency cannot deny having received it. Keep in mind, however, that if you deny the creditor access to you, legal action may become more likely. Collectors cannot make false threats. If a collector says he is going to take a specific action against you to enforce the debt, he has to do it. Collectors can, however, imply an action and state their legal rights by prefacing their language with may or could or some other similar word. Within 5 days of the first telephone contact, a letter must be mailed to you at your last known address giving you information about your account and the chance to dispute the validity of the debt. You must dispute information in writing, and collection activities must stop until the debt is verified. If you have retained an attorney, the collector must communicate with him or her until the attorney's services are no longer being used. It is important to be aware of your rights. One of the best ways to avoid problems with debt collectors is to communicate honestly with them and develop a realistic plan, one that is both acceptable to the collector and financially feasible for you to repay the debt. So let's recap. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act law applies to third-party collectors. It prohibits collectors from particular activities, such as profanity, harassment, calling at work if requested not to. Let's talk about your credit report. If you're having trouble paying your bills on time, you may be concerned about developing a negative credit history. If your payments are made 30 days late, you may be reported late to the credit bureaus. If your payments are arriving 60 days late, or if you're making partial payments, your creditors most definitely will report your accounts as being delinquent. While it is important to maintain good credit history whenever possible, just know that a clean report will help make it easier to get credit in the future. It is important to have a clear understanding of where your credit report fits among all of your other priorities. In other words, given a limited income that does not enable you to pay all of your expenses and bills, it is more important to keep a roof over your head and feed yourself and your family than it is to have immaculate credit. Keep in mind, too, that although future creditors and others who look at credit reports Some employers, insurance companies, and landlords will see a negative mark. The older delinquent payments become, the less weight they carry in a decision-making process, especially if your recent payment history is positive. Information about delinquent payments drop off the report automatically after 7 years. If you would like to provide an immediate explanation to everyone who reviews your credit report, you can ask the credit bureaus to add a message with a 100-word maximum to your report to clarify the circumstances surrounding your payment history. Is bankruptcy the answer? In some situations, bankruptcy can offer welcome relief from the stress of bill problems. But because of the long-term damage to your credit that bankruptcy causes, it should be considered very carefully. Court costs for a bankruptcy are about $200, although you may have them waived under certain circumstances. Also, it is advisable to seek legal advice, which can range from hundreds to thousands of dollars. The two most common types of personal bankruptcy are Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7 allows you to completely cancel certain types of debt, such as credit card balances, medical bills, past due rent, and things like that, and it stays on your credit report for 10 years. Chapter 13 is a court-administered repayment plan where you pay a percentage of the debt owed before the remaining balance is discharged. This stays on your credit report for 7 years. A Chapter 13 provides certain protection from creditors trying to collect on your debt. In fact, it may prevent a mortgage lender from foreclosing on your home while you get back on your feet. Some types of debt cannot be discharged in a bankruptcy. Debts that you are most likely will still be responsible for include child support and alimony, taxes, student loans, and court-ordered damages, such as a drunk driving settlement. Filing bankruptcy is a major financial decision, and it is a complicated legal procedure. While it is possible to file without an attorney, it is wise to gather any advice or information that you can before beginning the process. An excellent resource for anyone having difficulty is Money Troubles by Ramad Leonard, published by Nolo Press. This book gives a thorough overview of your options for dealing with debt. If you are looking for legal advice or services, contact your local bar association for legal referrals. If your income is very low, you may qualify for assistance from a legal aid office which provides free or low-cost legal advice. Also, many law schools sponsor legal clinics and give free advice to consumers. Call a school in your area for information. So let's recap bankruptcy. Explore all other options first. Many debts cannot be included. Creditors prefer to negotiate than to lose the debt completely. And bankruptcy has serious long-term repercussions. Preparing for the future to prevent recurring problems. While we all hope to never encounter financial problems again, the unfortunate truth is that many families face hardships multiple times throughout the course of their lives. To protect yourself from future problems, give some thought to the current situation. Was there anything that you could have done better to prepare for the hardship? By maintaining a budget, keeping your debt load low, making savings a priority, and living within your means, you can be prepared to ride out a financial storm if one comes your way again. Balanced Financial Fitness Program. The credit union provides a free counseling service as a benefit of being a credit union member. They provide money management counseling, debt repayment options, and credit report reviews. You may contact them at 1-888-456-2227 or visit them on the web at www.balancepro.net. That's www.balancepro, as one word, .net. Thank you very much. It has been my pleasure to provide this webinar to you. Congratulations on taking an interest in your financial fitness.